All right. Hello, everybody. This is Meister Keen, and today, well, I wanted to give you guys some news about just exactly what's going on with me. Uh, okay, we'll start with the fact that you can see I'm playing Elite Dangerous, and this game, woof. I gotta be honest, it's hard not to obsess about this game. It is absolutely beautiful. I want to know just exactly why did nobody tell me about this sooner. God, this game is gorgeous. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing to tide myself over, waiting for Starbase launch. Also, I've started a new job lately, and that job is physically and mentally demanding in the extreme. I love it. It's a good job, but it's been a little rough for me. So I've been coming home real tired, and I haven't been making a lot of videos lately, and I want to apologize for that. I'm also not going to make any videos in the next week or so because I'm going to be at PAX. That's right, I'm going to be at PAX. I'm going to be volunteering actually at PAX. I've got a job at PAX. So PAX West, right? It's a game festival uh, put on by Penny Arcades. It used to be called the Penny Arcade Expo. Now they just call it PAX because I guess they want to. Whatever. Anyway, so PAX is fantastic. It's great. If you can ever make it to a PAX, I highly recommend it. It's not a place to go if you've got anxiety about large crowds, but it's definitely a place to go if you're enthusiastic about games. And so that's what I do. I volunteer at PAX every year. Have since I think 2010 now, and so that's been no 2008 or nine actually. It's been 10 years at least. So yeah, if you would like to meet me at PAX and say hi and shake a hand and maybe get a beer, uh, and if you are going to PAX at all, and if you wanna meet up a little bit, hit me up on Discord. Hit me up on Discord. I'm always on my Discord, and I'd be delighted to meet anybody from the Starbase community, anybody from the Harbormen, anybody from anywhere. So, let's see, Space Engineers server. So we're coming down the last couple days here, the Space Engineers Season 1 Starbase pregame. Now, we're going to be working that a certain way. What I want is for anybody who's a faction who thinks they've earned some victory points to actually sort of submit an application to get their victory points, right? So screenshot evidence and some other things like that, and of course we'll verify in game because we've got the save file. But you guys want to give me an itemized list of what victory points you've earned and why you think you've earned them, and then we will verify and then issue the points that we think are appropriate. And that's how we'll figure it out for this season. Obviously, another season's gonna come up, and we gotta wait. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. We've got to work out how we're gonna change the game up and make it a little bit better for next season. Obviously, a lot of suggestions have been put out there. We've had people suggest that we restrict certain resources. Maybe you can only get platinum on a certain planet, or maybe you can only get ice on a certain planet, or maybe we just take uranium out of it entirely so that nobody can generate power with uranium. Or, other things like that. Resource restrictions that gives uh, interesting engineering. You know, your best art is always going to be produced in those situations where you are restricted by something, right? And I think that that's true in games, and I think that's true in engineering. So with Space Engineers, I think that if we add some artificial restrictions to the server, that might result in some interesting gameplay. Additionally, I thought about the role of the Harbormen in this server. And honestly, I thought, oh god, the freaking checklist is on. Whoops. So I thought about what we could do to make it more interesting, and I thought that since the Harbormen are the faction that is administering, we're administrating the server and we're creating the server for people, it would be kind of be inappropriate. It's actually kind of inappropriate for us to compete on the server. So I was thinking that maybe what we should do is we should actually act more like NPCs. Like, what if the Harbormen were just sort of there to raid and increase the difficulty just a little bit? Right? Now, what about that? Wouldn't that be interesting? Like once in a while we spawn in a couple ships and we go and we raid you a little bit, and we would start off really kind of nice and slow and easy, and we would do some sort of dumb raids that aren't really meant to work. But then later on, we would get kind of tough about it, right? We'd ramp it up slowly until at the end of the season we're actually being a real pest. And the idea is, of course, that one, it add a little bit to the challenge of the server without relying on actual NPCs, which can kind of clutter the server. Number two, it would let us kind of balance the server a little bit. Like if you've got one group that's a little overpowered, maybe we poke them a little bit and set them back just a little bit so the other groups can catch up. So we would prioritize raiding the stronger groups first. But also, we would do it on some strict rules. Like, if you defeat a raid, you get all the resources from that raid. So that if we send like a couple of fighters, we'd also have a little launch craft with some good resources on the launch craft. So the purpose of that would be, of course, to just add something that's interesting to the server. Right? If you defeat a raid, you get some cool stuff, right? Maybe that's one of the only places you can get platinum is from defeating a Harborman raid, right? And if you do honestly defeat that raid, we would leave you alone for at least 48 hours. While if you only manage to, if we manage to poke at your base a little bit and you don't actually defeat us, maybe we'll be back in 10 or 12 hours, or something like that. So we would make it tough but fair and possibly rewarding. Right? In other words, we would be good NPCs, right? Personally, I think that would be awfully fun. But again, we'd have to do it according to very strict rules. We'd have to lay those rules out up front and be very fair about it. And of course, also, I think that one of the nicer ways to go about it would be to actually avoid wiping anybody's bases. Right? If we're going to raid you, maybe we poke at your defenses a little bit. Maybe we blow up one of your small craft. And then we leave. Right? All right, you took a setback. Now we're going to get out of there and let you rebuild. And, it'd tend to take those softer factions and toughen them up a little bit, right? Without completely crushing them. Right? Cookall will crush you. He's good at that. We don't need to do that. We don't need to crush people. Yeah, okay. So that's my idea. Harbormen as sort of an advanced AI NPCs for the Starbase pregame server, and all the other groups would compete. And of course, we would change up the victory point system a little bit. It's been suggested that we get rid of the economic win, the platinum. I actually prefer to keep that just because I want there to be somewhat sort of an economic way to win. But maybe we could do that. Maybe we could find a better way to do that. I don't know. But I think that, industrialists who have managed to make a real economic coup ought to get something. Right? Because that's going to be part of the game in Starbase, after all, right? Credits. You sell a lot of resources, you get credits, you build up enough credits, and you've got just this permanent pool of resources. And that's power in Starbase, or at least that seems like that's going to be power in Starbase. So I think that we would do well to simulate that in some way, if that makes sense. All right. Well, anyway. So those are my thoughts on the SE Starbase pregame server. Once again, if you are one of the factions that is currently actually competing, which I think at this moment is pretty much just United Shattered Empire and ALR. I forget what ALR stands for. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, anyway. So if you are one of those groups, and if you are interested in receiving some victory points and being crowned the Season 1 champions, Please submit an application with a bit of evidence and give me just sort of a line item list of what victory points you think you've earned and why. Of course, we'll verify in the server, and then we will issue the points accordingly. And I think that just about does it. I think I've said anything I need to say. Was there anything else? I'm trying to think. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, well, I forget. Oh, well, that's all. End of video.